Hello, I am your caster Hotohori, and welcome to this week's Power Rankings presented by Beehive for the Overwatch League. Week 2 is just finished up, and we're going to be ranking the teams from 1 through 12 today. And bringing up the rear at number 12, we have the Shanghai Dragons. The Dragons, unfortunately, unable to win a game again this week. They had their best chance against the Florida Mayhem and were just unable to pick it out. There was some turmoil in the background here during the week with regards to the Dragons, rumors of overworking and malnourishment, which were just immediately snuffed out. But it looks like Shanghai will be bringing up the rear in the Overwatch League for pretty much most of Season 1. They just have not improved, and unfortunately, unless something happens with Shanghai and they get a lucky win here and there, they'll remain at number 12. At number 11, we have the Florida Mayhem. Now, the Mayhem do get their first win this week, and it was against the Shanghai Dragons, but they did not look very good on the first day of Week 2, losing 4-0. Florida, unfortunately, is going to be bringing up the rear along with Shanghai. Issues include the fact that they only have a 6-man squad, so they're very, very predictable. So unfortunately, unless they change something after Week 2, which is when they can bring, Section 2, where they can bring an additional player, Florida is going to be bringing up the rear. At number 10, and this is going to shock a lot of people, it is the Dallas Fuel. The Dallas Fuel, unfortunately, have not been able to buy a win, and now with their suspension of XQC through all of Section 1, they're going to be relying heavily on Coco to take them sort of forward. The problem is that Dallas has played a very, very strong schedule, and they're probably going to get into the meat of the sort of mid-tier teams as we get here through weeks 3 through 5. And don't expect Dallas to be at the number 10 spot. I think they'll be able to get a couple wins next week, and will bring them up through the power rankings and possibly into the top 6. But that's going to be hoping for Dallas. At number 9, we have the Boston Uprising. The Boston Uprising looked fairly well in their matches this week. Unfortunately, it just didn't really work out for them, not really winning their matches on weekday 4. And Boston has a lot of potential and talent on their team. The real issue about it is that Boston is not consistent, losing to the San Francisco Shock 3-2 on match day 4, and then Boston losing 4-0 to the Seoul Dynasty. But that's not really the big loss here. Is losing to San Francisco the way they did shows that they are probably most likely a bottom, middle-of-the-road tier in the Overwatch League, and therefore they need to get some more consistent wins against the mid-tier teams to move up in the power rankings. At number 8, we have the San Francisco Shock. Shock come off a big win over the Boston Uprising. This is a team that's sort of running shorthanded with Super and Sinatra both on the bench due to age restrictions. They did also lose to the Philadelphia Fusion earlier this week 2-1 in a very, very close match. They actually did tie them in one of the maps, but Philadelphia overpowered them with their DPS combinations of Carpe and Shadowburn. So that's why we have San Francisco at number 8. At number 7, it is the aforementioned Philadelphia Fusion. Huge win over the Shock on match day 1 of week 2. 2-1. They did look very, very good against the San Francisco Shock, but then they eventually got reverse swept by the Los Angeles Gladiators. Philadelphia looked very, very good in those first 2 matches, but consistency is the problem with Philadelphia. They'll look good for a bit and then just really lose it. It could have been a bit of a mental strain, thinking that they could have probably just overpowered Gladiators in 3 matches, but it was not meant to be. So Philadelphia is your number 17 in this week's power rankings. At number 6, we have the aforementioned Los Angeles Gladiators. Big reverse sweep win against the Philadelphia Fusion. Unfortunately, all of that was negated with a terrible 4-0 loss to New York Excelsior. Los Angeles didn't even look like they were in the match with regards to them playing Excelsior. They were on a different level, it seemed like, and Los Angeles needs to pick up all of its wins against probably the lower and mid-table teams of the Overwatch League to have a chance to basically make it to the top 6 in the playoffs. But their DPS combinations of Surefour and Asher look fairly good against the Philadelphia Fusion. So good. So maybe things are looking up for the Gladiators. I'm not sure, but they are your number 6 team. At number 5, it is the Houston Outlaws. Houston with a huge 4-0 win over the Dallas Fuel in the Battle of Texas, and it really did show that Houston just outclassed the Fuel in that match. Now, is Houston going to be able to maintain its momentum? I'm not sure. That 4-0 win against Shanghai on match day 1 really didn't show very much, as Shanghai is probably the worst team in the league. So 2 wins on the trot takes them into next week on a high. So Houston Outlaws fans and Optic Gaming fans, you are at number 5 of this week's Overwatch League Power Rankings. At number 4, it is the Los Angeles Valiant. Now, the Valiant had a hard week. Now, you can't sort of blame them for going 0-2 this week. They played to a 3-0 loss to New York Excelsior, who looked very, very good against them. But then, on match day 4 of week 2, they played London Spitfire basically to the very end, losing 3-2, taking the most maps off of a Korean team this year in the Overwatch League, and showing much of the potential that is on their team. Soon and Unko, the pickups from Team Rogue over the offseason look very, very good, and the DPS substitutes that are also on the bench for the Valiant look excellent. So good things for the Los Angeles Valiant going forward, and they are your number 4 team in the Overwatch League Power Rankings for end of week 2. For number 3, it is the London Spitfire. Now, with the Korean teams, a lot of the times you can make an argument that you can sort of just shuffle and rotate all of the teams, but not this week. London lost a map against the Dallas Fuel, who were reeling after their 4-0 loss to the Houston Outlaws, and then they lost 2 maps and could have lost the game to the Los Angeles Valiant on Saturday. So therefore, London actually has now sort of separated itself from the top 2 Korean teams, showing a little bit of sort of space in the armor there, making sure that, like, you know, they're looking human, but they can sort of clutch it out when they need to. But they are your number 3 team in the Overwatch Power Rankings this week. At number 2, it is the New York Excelsior. The Excelsior looking very, very good this week, not losing a map to anyone in week 2, going 3-0 against the Valiant and 4-0 against the Los Angeles Gladiators. Both teams in the maps just looked completely dominated by New York, and Big Boy Pine is the new poster boy for headshots in the Overwatch League. Everybody's loving him, and he's becoming a huge personality, but he's not the only one on that team. Sabiobi, and Libero both carry their weight on the DPS, and their tanks and supports, Jonak on the Death Machine Zenyatta, just excellent for the New York Excelsior. Very, very good team, and well-deserved of the number 2 ranking in the Overwatch League this week. And at number 1, we have, no surprise to anyone, the Seoul Dynasty. Now, the Dynasty just looked dominant against the Florida Mayhem 4-0. Now, you could argue that, like, Florida basically was keeping them sort of bottled up for most of their games, but Seoul just had the knack of basically pushing when they wanted to. They were playing with some substitutes such as Guido and Bunny, and then when they were actually playing the Boston Uprising, they had their A squad and just looked absolutely dominant. It was not even close against the Boston Uprising, and with support such as Toby and Ryu Jae Hong, everybody there is just really wary of the fact that Seoul can just sort of come at you at any time and basically take down your team at any second. And it's just an amazing, amazing team to watch. And they are your number 1 team in the Overwatch League Power Rankings. So here they are, ranks 1 through 12 of the Overwatch Power Rankings. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And please, make sure you just visit me on my other channels. I have live shows available on Twitch, and if you would like an audio, the free audio associated to this Power Rankings, we do it every week, and I make it available on my Podbean podcast at hotohori.podbean.com. Download for free. We also have our weekly 2-hour update, week 2 update, and week 3 predictions and outlooks with regards to the upcoming weeks of the Overwatch League. So please stay tuned to this channel, and please subscribe to any of my other social media contents for additional Overwatch League news. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining me today for the Overwatch League Power Rankings.